Mm. All right. So I'll just say good afternoon one more time. It is Friday. I don't know about you, but I am glad that the week is at its end, unless you're working this weekend. My apologies. I'm working Sunday. So, um, so my name is Allison Pryor. I am from WLS. I am typically known as the Evergreen trainer. However, if you ever call the WLS IT help desk and you hear a woman answer the phone, that's me. Hi. So today we're going to be going over tech services. So today is really kind of more of a refresher, but it's also geared to people that are brand new to tech services. And when we talk about tech services, we are talking about materials that are linked to the catalog. Typically, that's books, but that can be DVDs, CDs, kits, instruments, whatever. And once we link those items to the catalog, we have to maintain them. So sometimes we have to edit a status or a shelving location or a stat cat. Sometimes we have to delete them. And sometimes we have to run reports to find out what needs to be maintained. So today we're going to go through the process of what you need to know and do in order to link items to the catalog. Then we're going to shift into the editing of that. And then we're going to go over some tools and resources that are going to help you find and locate those items to begin with. So I will be pausing throughout this training to give you guys a chance to ask questions, to ask me to pause or repeat something. And then there will also be time at the end of this training too, to answer any questions that for anything that may not have been covered in the process. Before we jump in, I see a couple of you have your cameras turned on. I see a couple of you, I know a couple of you have access to a microphone. I want to know what made you guys want to sign up for today's training. So I'd like to know who you are, what library are you with? Are you new to tech services or have you been doing this for a while? So I see Karen and I see you and I'm going to volunteer you.
Okay. Hi, we are at the Ardsley Library. I'm Karin. Sorry. I am new to the to Ardsley. I just started work in June. Um, and I'm a clerk and help with everything. One of the things that I'm very new at tech. So I'm taking my notes and I'm gonna learn a lot and write a lot down. Um,
Perfect.
yeah.
I've been here a while and I do a lot of help with like the tech stuff
Okay.
for patrons and for like the rest of the staff. So I don't know, but I don't know what I don't know. So
No problem. No problem. Well, thank you so much for sharing. All right, Marta, I'm going to volunteer you next.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Marta Santiago. I work here at New Rochelle Public. Been here almost 13 years and am very rusty when it comes to tech services. We used to do this a lot as clerks. I'm a library clerk, sorry, in the circulation department. And we used to do
Okay.
it, we used to take turns doing it when I started, back in, oh gosh, when was that? 2013. But since then, we have had one person do it. And yeah, so I need a refresher because we're going to start helping tech services.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Um,
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm going, oh, you have someone else with you.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all in the same room here from New Rochelle Public Library. Sandra Perez, I'm the senior clerk. I'm new to tech services. I
Okay.
so I don't know. We have to train our new staff to do it when they come in, so I definitely need to learn it. It's more than a refresher for me.
Okay. Great. Well, welcome.
Here's Madhu.
Hi, I'm Madhu Banneker. I'm also a library clerk slash a customer service representative over here. Started in 2022, but new to tech, just done some minor stuff only in tech, but
Okay.
started recently doing more tech now. So want to know more about the process and everything.
Great. I'm happy you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that everyone in the office
Yeah.
at New Rochelle?
Yes, just us.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hand it over to Constantine because I know you're also with New Rochelle. So if you have access to your mic, feel free to unmute. If not, just drop it in the chat. So I see, what'd you say? What'd you say? New starting at New Rochelle Public Library and Teen Services and trying to learn better practices. Currently been linking more books for teen services. Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then Ursula, head of adult services at Mamaroneck. I want to know more about the tech aside from what I already know. Thank you so much for sharing, Constantine and Ursula. And Stephanie, James, and Jackie, if one of you wants to unmute or drop in the chat, I just want to know who you are, where you're from, and what's your experience with tech services before we jump into today's training.
Hi, I'm Stephanie and I work in circulation at Croton and Scarsdale. So I've had a little bit of experience with tech services, but really just wanted to know more about the workflow and the process and how that kind of fits in with what we do here.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I see James dropped in the chat. James Welch from New Rochelle Library. Don't have a lot of experience with tech, but I do some reports with tech services. Yeah, we're going to be talking about reports for tech services later on. So great. And then Jackie, if you are willing to share a little bit, which library are you from and what's your experience with tech services? Can't get a microphone working, no problem. I'm at Scarsdale, fairly new, started here last August, oversee collections. So just wanted a better idea of what happens tech services. Perfect. So a lot of you are kind of talking about having some on-hand experience, but you're wanting to kind of get those gaps filled. And that's a typical experience working with Evergreen. Usually when we start working at the library, we get kind of the rundown of how we're supposed to do things. And then we're kind of left to figure the rest out on our own, just through trial and error. And we learn a lot that way, but sometimes it's really helpful to get the official best practices. So hopefully those gaps get filled in today. And so with that being said, let's jump in. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And this is a page of the slide deck that I will be sharing with you guys later today, as well as the link to the recording and links to other help guides that are going to help you with all things tech services. What I want to talk about, though, I know I kind of mentioned at the top what tech services is, but I want to kind of go over that one more time because it's really an umbrella term for working with our items. So tech services pertains to the linking, the editing, the deletion, and general maintenance of any item that we link to the catalog. So when we say link, you're going to hear me using a lot of interchangeable terms. So link really just means to add. You'll hear me say copy, holdings, items. Those all mean the same thing. A copy, an item, and a holding really refers to one singular barcode. So an item can be a book, a DVD case, a baking sheet, or a kit. So some common tech services workflows include the creating and linking to records. We're going to see what I mean by that. Maintaining those records, creating and maintaining holdings templates that help with the linking process, understanding the system policies that back up or support the tech services workflows. So we're going to be taking a look at circulation modifiers, shelving locations, those sorts of things that really control how those items circulate once they're added to the catalog. How to use item and record buckets if we have time for that, but also understanding item statuses and taking a look at reports to run. So I'm switching over to my Evergreen home screen, and I just want to note one more thing. If at any time you can't see what I'm describing, please feel free to speak up. Sometimes when we're working in Zoom and sharing screens, sometimes you can't see what I think you're seeing. So if at any point, do let me know if you need me to repeat anything, if you want to ask a question about what I'm doing. I do invite you to unmute yourself and ask me, interrupt me. Drop it into the chat. I will be pausing to see if there's any questions in there as well. So when we work in tech services, we're typically going to be starting off in the catalog itself, and you can access the catalog through a few ways from the home screen. So right here in the search box, this is going to open up the catalog by initiating a keyword search. We can also get there from our search dropdown and our catalog dropdown. We're also going to be working in item status. Item status can be accessed through the retrieve item by barcode link here. Our search dropdown, search for items by barcode. Circulation, item status, it's all the way down here, and in the catalog dropdown. We'll be taking a look at reports later on. That can be accessed through the administration dropdown and through this daily maintenance quick start menu here, the link to the reports. I will be repeating all of this later on. I don't expect you to remember that right off the bat, but let's jump in and start with taking a look at what a title record is. And then we're going to link to that title record. So when you first get a book, let's say someone at your library ordered the books, they finally come in. Cataloging department here at WS has already created a title record that's in that catalog, and that's going to act as an umbrella or a home base, which we link our books to. So typically to start that off, we usually are going to begin our search either by searching by title, or I think it's more efficient to search by the ISBN. Now you can drop that into that search field right there, and it's going to pull up your title record. So your title record is this little section at the top of your screen here, right beneath your search form. And just as a reminder, we can always hide that search form if we feel that our screen is getting a little too clunky. The nice thing about our Evergreen workstations is we are able to customize our displays. So I just have to click on that to expand it or to shrink it. So our title record is going to give us some information at a glance. Typically, we're going to see cover art. We're going to see the title. This title is linked. We see the author, the bib or the bib call number. And then we get some information about it. So if there's a specific edition, we can see which one that is, the pub date. The TCN, this is called the title control number. The title records are searchable by these numbers as well. I can also see when this was created, when this was added to the catalog, and by whom. So typically, if you ever see Equinox or a creation date of 2019, this is going to tell you that this is an older item. This is an older record. And this was added to the catalog before we migrated to Evergreen. And we migrated to Evergreen in March of 2019. Another way to access your title record is to switch to the numeric search tab when you're searching the catalog. If you do a lot of tech services work, it might make more sense to have this as your default when you open the catalog. Everyone starts off with the keyword search tab being the default, but you can switch it to numeric, and you can do that by going into the search preferences option right beneath that search button. So you're going to see your default search library. This should be set to West because when we search the catalog, this is going to include everything in the system. Your preferred library is going to match your workstation. So my workstation is for WS. This is set to Pound Ridge, and it's probably because I was helping Pound Ridge with something at one point. So I'm going to switch that back to WLS. What your preferred library setting does is when you are searching an item, this is what pulls your library's items to the top of the list so you can quickly see what you have if you have it. Your default search pane, this is what initiated this conversation. So you can see here, it's set to keyword search, but if I click in this field, these are my options. So I can set it to numeric, which is going to allow me to search by ISBN, barcode, call number, UPN, TCN, and so on. And then I can also set the number of search results per page here. So when you first register your workstation, you're only limited to 10 search results per page, and that can get really tedious after a while. So I have mine set to 50. You can set it up to 100 if you'd like. You could set it to more, but it's going to take a little bit longer to load once you get past 100. You can exclude you can exclude electronic resources too from your search results. You can default group formats and editions together, and you can also default limit to what is available, meaning only items that have an available status. Now, because we work in tech services, we're working with all items with all different statuses. I don't recommend turning that on, and I don't recommend grouping your formats and editions together, because sometimes we need to be able to differentiate if we need to work on a large print edition versus an audiobook edition. Also, these settings are sticky, meaning I don't have to save anything once I set it. It goes into effect. So I just click my blue return button and it brings me back to where I started. So going back to our title record is the first layer of an item. This is what the cataloging department creates and adds to the catalog. And then from there, we have our second layer, which is going to be the call number or volume layer. So the call number and volume layer, this is what our patrons are looking at when they're looking at the spine labels printed on the books. And typically you are going to see some uniformity by location, but as you scroll through the item table, you'll typically see that each library is formatting their call numbers a little bit differently. There's no wrong, well, I don't say there's no wrong way. I will say the preferred format is all caps to include the author or the genre in that call number. Your third and last layer of the item is your barcode or item, and your barcode is what differentiates your copy from other copies. When we're looking in the catalog too, these tabs here, if you've ever searched for an item, you're familiar with the item table. This is the first option or the default option, just like our search preferences. We can also change the default view for this. Because we're working in tech services, typically we're actually going to be working in the holdings view tab quite a bit. Now remember, holdings means item means barcode. The difference between the item table and the holdings view is that the holdings view is going to give you a lot more information than what the table view is going to give you. If I work at the reference desk or if I work at circulation, I typically don't really need to know the meat and potatoes of an item. I just need to see the shelving location barcode. Can I place a hold on it or not? And what's the status of it? Switching into the holdings view, though, is going to allow me to see all of the items by system, or I can narrow it down by location. So New Rochelle, you're pretty heavily repped today, so I feel like I'm going to be using you guys as my examples throughout, and I hope that's okay with you. So there are options here right beneath my holdings maintenance location selector. So these are all optional. And so I have them all selected, but what these are showing me is these are showing the call numbers. These are showing the copies. These are showing or including empty call numbers and empty libraries. So because I narrowed it down to what's in New Rochelle, we can see their one item. So again, just to talk about those layers one more time, I feel like this is an easier way to visualize it and understand it. Our title record is that first layer. Our second layer is our call number, which is this green row here. And then the third layer is the item that's linked to it. These items are already linked to this record, but what happens when a new book comes in? Well, now we need to add a holding to this record. There's a few ways we can do that. One is just from this add holdings button here. This is going to open up a brand new tab, and this is called the Holdings Editor. Your title record is going to be included in the display. This is so we can visually confirm we are linking the right book to the right record. Just like when we're searching, we can shrink that too if we find we're getting overwhelmed with all of the things on our screens, and then we can also expand it again. Now, there are two ways to look at this. Pretend you don't see this one moment. And now I'm switching back. If you're doing this for the first time, you're going to see three tabs here. You're going to see a holdings tab, an item attributes tab, and a preferences tab. If you haven't caught on by now, you have quite a few preferences to edit or set when it comes to working in your workstation. When you are first looking at this, your holdings tab, this is going to be where we set the classification, the call number, the barcode, and whether or not this record includes different parts or volumes. Your item attributes tab, this is where we're going to set how this item needs to circulate/exist in the catalog. All of these fields here do something. And then this preferences tab, this is where we're going to control the display option. Now, once upon a time, this holdings tab and this item attributes tab were combined into one display. And I personally believe that it's way more efficient and easier to have those two combined as well. If you'd like that, you can go over to your preferences tab. And in this holding preferences box, if you turn on unified holdings, item attributes display, and item templates, this will combine those two. So it's going to make it just a one-stop shop, so to speak, when we're linking an item. Now, classification, it's generally recommended to leave this set as Dewey. And in your preferences tab, you can set that too. So this is always filled out anytime you're about to link something. Your call number label. Now you can type or copy and paste your call numbers in here. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm using New Rochelle as my example here, I'm just copying and pasting what New Rochelle did for this. And I'm pasting that in there. Now, a cool feature is sometimes we have multiple copies that come in. And so we have the option to link multiple copies at the same time. Now, sometimes those call numbers are going to differ. Maybe we want one item to be an express item. Maybe we want one item, maybe one, whatever, for whatever reason. You can always add different call numbers because we're going to be creating multiple items or linking multiple items in one go. So for example, to pick Devereaux. Now your barcode, this is where you're going to scan your barcodes. I don't have any real barcodes to scan with me, so I'm going to create what I like to call my dummy barcodes. And if I ever reuse a barcode, Evergreen's going to tell me so. So as you can see, this is highlighted in red and it says duplicate barcode. Typically, we don't ever really want to reuse an item barcode because there are statistics attached to those barcodes. And it's going to, first of all, Evergreen's not going to let you save this, but also it's going to completely mess up the data for your monthly circulation and ultimately your annual reports. So we want to keep the data correct and clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter this. Test one. Well, that's an explanation. Test two. Now over here, you see a parts feature. This parts feature is only really going to be used in cases where there are multiple volumes that you're linking. This is not meant to be used for items that are a part of a series. So typically when we are linking encyclopedias and there's multiple volumes to choose from, these parts, this is what's going to show the patron which volume is which. I have a example to show you, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. So once my call number and my barcode is set, I'm going to scroll on down to my item attributes here. And so you can see that some of these fields look like they're already filled out so far. And it's because it's pulling the barcode that I just scanned and the call numbers that I just added in there. The status is going to be set to available soon by default, and we want to leave that alone. Whenever we're linking new items, that's what the status needs to be, because available soon is going to display in the catalog as, I believe it displays as available soon. It will be holdable, but it gives us time as staff to finish what we're doing before we ultimately make it available at the end of this process. So if it's a new item, leave it as available soon. Now, as I go down here, there's going to be a couple of things that we're either just going to skip over or ignore. Now, when you do this for the first time, you're going to see a lot more fields here. And the reason for that is because Evergreen is an open source software, meaning other library systems that use Evergreen use more fields when it comes to linking their items than we do. I have a cheat sheet for everyone that will tell you which ones you can remove from this display. You can remove them if you go into your preferences tab and scroll down. Selected fields, this time selecting a field is going to hide them from that screen. So what I have selected here, because we don't need to fill it out or use it. I don't need the activation date. I don't need the copy number. I don't need the age-based hold protection, floating, loan duration, fine level, circulate as type, deposit amount, or quality. I don't need those things. So that's why I've selected them to remove them. Again, you don't have to remember that right away. I'm going to send you that information later on. But I do want to start filling out the rest of this. Now, I can fill this out manually, and that's totally fine. But we have an option to apply templates. Templates get created beforehand, and it's usually one person at a library that's setting these up. That one person is going to talk to the tech services department, and you're going to talk about what are the items you are most commonly linking to the catalog. You can get basic, or you can get as detailed with it as you want. And then you're going to create templates for each one. So all you have to do is apply a template, and then everything is already filled out for you. You don't have to manually go by field by field by field. I'm going to show you what that looks like also. Don't worry. Don't worry just yet. So if you're not applying a template though, let's say I actually don't have a template. So I want to delete that template, and I want to start over fresh. That's fine. We have to choose a shelving location. Shelving locations are going to vary by library, and there's quite a few shelving locations to choose from. And you can see that just by opening this up and seeing the available shelving locations. If you're not sure which shelving location to use and there's no one to ask, typically the advice is to pull something off the shelf that's similar to what you're linking, but we also have a cheat sheet of shelving locations. This is on the IT Wiki. I'm going to send you the direct link to this. This is going to be a table chart that explains what each shelving location does, because shelving locations combined with circulation modifiers control how items appear in the catalog, whether they're holdable, and whether or not they can circulate. So going back to my holdings editor, this is just a regular book. This, I'm going to put this in just my regular fiction shelving location. Your circulating library is typically going to match your workstation. It's typically going to match the owning library. The only time you're going to really see this stray from that is if your library has branches. So Mount Pleasant, Harrison, Yonkers, New Rochelle. If you have branches, this is where you can decide, is this going to circulate here at this location, or is this going to be going to a branch to circulate? Can this item circulate? You're going to choose yes or no. Items that don't circulate, typically those are going to be reference items or just in-house use only items. Whether or not this item can be holdable. So again, yes or no. And then after I select those items, I have to click the apply button. And I know that it's set when it turns green. If I don't click apply, those fields are not going to save. And those certain fields will have red asterisks next to them. So those are required to fill out. You can add item alerts at the time of linking too. So item alerts pop up at the circulation desk when we scan items, typically at check-in or checkout. And you'll commonly see these for DVD sets, CDs, or the travel books that include maps. So a typical item alert will just say check for all pieces, check for all discs. To set that up, you're going to choose when you want this alert to appear. So that can be at checkout, check-in, and then there's quite a few options to choose from. You're going to put in the alert message, and then you're just going to click add new. When we link the item, we're going to input the price of the item. It's very important that we remember to include the price of the item. When items are marked lost, this is how Evergreen knows to automatically apply that bill to the patron's record. OPAC visible, yes, I want this item to appear in the catalog. I want patrons to be able to see this. This item is not a reference item. Cost, I'm ignoring that. And then I'm going to move on to my stat cats or statistical categories. So statistical categories are going to fall into two categories. There's a monthly report, stat cat, and then there's a state report. The state report feeds into our annual report that our directors and our library admin stress out about each year. So I am going to, when I'm filling these out, I'm going to look at my options for my monthly report. I have adult materials, central library funds. This typically does not apply to anyone except the central library, which is Peekskill. Juvenile materials, mixed audience materials, or young adult materials. This is a book, so I'm going to, this is an adult material, so I'm going to choose this. And then in this field, I'm going to click in here, and then I'm going to choose what best applies. There's adult playaway, audiobook, biography, express, fiction, foreign language, magazine, movie, music, New York State Fund, new book, or nonfiction. If you are ever applying the new book StatCat, just remember that once you take it out of that new shelving location, you also have to update the StatCat to a regular statistical category. I'm just applying fiction. For state, you only have three options. You have adult, juvenile, or mixed. If you are linking young adult materials, typically those are included in the adult for the state report. So I'm just leaving it as adult fiction for this. I'm happy. This looks good. So now I'm going to apply all, save, and exit. And this is going to link my item, and it's going to take me back to the holdings view. Now, I linked items for WLS, so I'm not going to see them with New Rochelle turned on. So I'm going to set it back to the system, or I can just set it back to my location. And as I scroll down, here are my new items. But I'm not done yet because my status is available soon. I need to print my spine labels and then I need to make these items available. So when I print my spine labels, there's a few ways I can do that. I can do it from this page, I can do it at check-in, or I can do it through item status. But I'm going to select my new items. And this is if I do my spine labels through Evergreen. Some libraries do their create their spine labels outside of Evergreen, and that is completely fine to do. But if you are interested in doing it through Evergreen, I'm going to select those items and I'm going to right click and open my actions menu. And my print labels option is at the top. This is going to open up my spine labels page. And so because I have two items selected, I have two spine labels stacked on top of each other. There are also templates that I can apply here as well. So I am using my label left justified, but let's see if I applied my sensor, what does that look like? And that does change it up a bit. My settings tab, this is where I'm going to tell Evergreen how I want this to be printed because I can print this continuous, which is how if you're printing through a label printer, this is what you want to have selected. But if I'm printing from a sheet of labels through a regular printer, I'm going to want to switch that to sheet. We do not use pocket labels, so I'm only turning on spine label. I'm ignoring this page settings here because this does not apply to my label printer. And then I want to take a look at my font and label settings. So this is where I can control the font size if I want this to be in bold. And then sometimes I also may need to add some additional settings with how I want my label to print out. Okay, so I'm gonna click print. I'm not hooked up to a label printer right now, so that's not really gonna work for me, but let's pretend that my label's printed out. I applied them to my book. I've stamped my book. This is property of the blankety blank library. And now I want these to become available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my check-in screen in a new tab. And before I scan my items, I'm going to go to my check-in modifiers. My check-in modifiers are typically going to be set for auto print hold in transit slips. Anyone that works at the circulation desk is going to want this check-in modifier turned on. Find free libraries, typically you'll have amnesty mode turned on also. Amnesty mode is going to delete any overdue fines associated with the item that you're checking in, regardless of the checkout library. Circulation rules follow the checkout library. So if I'm a fine-free library, but a book comes elsewhere, if it's checked out at my library, it's not going to accrue any late fees or fines. But when it comes to making items available after I've linked them, there's two additional modifiers I need to turn on, and that's retarget all statuses and retarget local holds. Now I'm going to take amnesty mode off just so it's not so cluttered up here, but take a look at my banner. You see my auto print hold and transit slips, and then you see always retarget local holds, but you don't see the one for all statuses. That's okay that you don't see it because if I open that up, I can see it's selected. And I also know, and now you know too, these two have to be turned on in order for them to work at the same time. So I can't just have one, I have to have both of them turned on in order to make my new item available. So I'm not hooked up to a scanner right now. You guys will be scanning these books. Let's pretend I'm doing that. And so my status is now recently returned. This is a temporary status. After about an hour, this is going to show as available. The reason we turned on those check-in modifiers is because retarget local holds. This is going to make sure that my new item is going to fill holds for my patrons that want to pick up this item at my library. This is going to prioritize those holds. Retarget all statuses. This is what helps that status update from available soon to available. So when patrons are looking at the catalog or at the app, they can see, oh, first impressions is in. Let me place a hold, or let me go in and see if I can pull it off the shelf. Okay, I'm pausing for questions before we move on to creating templates. Okay. So let me just close out some of those extra tabs. All right, I'm going back to my home screen and I'm going into
Hi,
local.
Allison.
Yes.
Yeah, can you explain that last part again? That we always need to, for under the the two check-in modifiers that we have to make sure are on to make the item available. Can you explain what those are again and why?
Yes. So in check-in, I'm opening up the check-in modifiers menu and I'm turning on retarget local holds and retarget all statuses. I want these turned on because this is going to prioritize my patrons getting this item first. And this is going to update the status from available soon to available. When I'm done linking my items, though, I'm turning them off. Because if I work at the circulation desk and I scan regular items, this can affect how they fill holds. So those two check-in modifiers, these are really only intended for brand new items I'm just linking. Okay, great. So I'm back at my home screen and I'm going into local administration for my administration dropdown. In my center column, I'm going into the holdings template editor, and this is where we're going to create or edit existing templates. So when I was linking, I mentioned that this is something that we can easily apply to our items so we don't have to manually go one by one when we're filling out the fields. One thing you'll notice though that's different is that I don't have the option to remove those extra fields I was talking about. So again, I have a cheat sheet that tells you which ones you can skip over. So if I were to open this dropdown, I can see the existing templates that are saved to my workstation. These are exclusive to my workstation. So I created these templates, but until I make them available and share them, no one else can use these. So if I am in a department with multiple people, I want to make sure we're using the same templates when we're linking items because it's going to make sure that all of our items are uniform in the catalog. Now, if I have an existing template that I want to edit, I'm just going to select that and click apply. And then I can make any edits I want and click save, and it's automatically going to update it. And then I get a little message in the bottom corner there that says that it's been saved. But if I don't need this template anymore, let's say that my library is just, we're done with magazines. We're not getting magazines anymore, never again. I don't need this template. I can delete this template from my dropdown, and now it's no longer there. But I want to create a new template, and I don't have any templates for books. So I'm just going to type over what's in that field. And I'm going to say books. And then maybe I want to start with a clear canvas. So I don't want to see any of these fields here. I'm just going to click that clear button. It's not deleting the template. It's just clearing all of those fields so I can start fresh. So I'm going to decide what I want this item, what I want this template to do for this item. So just like when we were linking the item, yes, this item will circulate. Shelving location, this is where I'm going to choose the shelving location. What kind of book is this? And this is what I mean, where you can start off vague or you can get as detailed as you want. So some libraries have templates for every genre of every book for every audience. And that is wonderful and perfect. And I celebrate them for doing that. Or you can just start off with just a basic book template and then apply the shelving location when you're linking the item. So I'm just going to say this is going to be a new book. Loan duration, I'm skipping over. I'm skipping over quality and I'm skipping over floating and I'm moving on to my next row. So status, this is going to be a new book. So I'm setting that to available soon. OPAC visible, yes, I want this to show up in the catalog. Circulate as type and fine level. And item tags, I'm skipping over these. Circulation library, this is going to be typically the home library, unless I'm linking for my branches items. So I'm setting that to WLS for myself. One more time. Circulation modifier. This is going to control for how long this item circulates. And so if you're ever unsure which circulation modifier to choose or apply, there's a cheat sheet on here on the IT Wiki that will be shared with you. And this is going to explain to you how to choose the best circulation modifier. So a circulation modifier or circ mod, this is what it's looking at a couple of different pieces to control whether or not this item circulates, what type of patron can take this item out, how long this item circulates for, if it can be renewed, are there overdue fees assigned to it, and so on. And sometimes we have to get creative and we have to kind of choose what makes the most sense to apply to an item because there might not be a designated circulation modifier for the item that you're linking to. But as you can see, we do have quite a few to choose from. So this table is going to give you the name. If there's an items out limit, so for our express items, there is a limit to the amount that patrons can check out for those. Loan duration, so how long does this item typically circulate for? Are there fines? Is there a max fine? And are these items holdable? So this is a book. This is a new book, but I'm going to say this is going to be one of my 7-day express items. So no, I don't want this to be holdable. I'm skipping over item notes and I'm moving over to reference. This is not reference. I'm skipping over price because I only fill out the price when I'm linking the item. This is a template to be applied to books. So the price is going to vary depending on the book that comes across my desk. I'm skipping over age-based hold protection and item alerts. I can fill out stat cats for my template. However, sometimes there's a bug in Evergreen and they don't always transfer over. So I would say if you're including filling out your stat cats in your template, when you apply it, when you're linking the item, just verify visually that those are filled out. With your stat cats, here it's going to say filter by library. You're going to see your library code and then you're going to see the option for West. Always set this to West. If I set this to my library, there's no stat cats to apply. So this isn't useful. I'm setting this to West because this is ensuring that I have the stat cats available to me and every library is using the same stat cats. So again, I'm filling out a monthly and I'm filling out a state. So this is going to be monthly adult materials. This is an express item. So that's what I'm selecting. For my state report, this is also an adult, but this is a fiction. This will be for a fiction book. And so maybe I want to update that in my template name. So books dash fiction. Then I'm going to save it. I get my little notification that that was successful, and I'm just going to open up my drop down and look, there it is. So I can do this as many times for as many different types of items that my library may need the templates for. When I'm done and I'm happy with the selection I have here, now I'm going to share it and make it available to my colleagues. So over to the right side of my screen, I have an export and an import button. Export is going to take these templates out of my workstation, and it's going to allow me to save it to my library's shared drive folder. And this is taking a second for my laptop to do, which is always annoying when I'm doing a training, but you're going to find these in your downloads folder. These are going to be exported as JSON files. JSON files can only really be opened in Evergreen. So if you were to try to open outside, if you were to go into your share drive and open it, it won't let you. And see, it's working on it. It's working on it. So here's my, oh gosh, there's more stuff happening. Okay, hold on. So here's my exported copy templates. That's not an easy name to tell my coworkers what to look for. So I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to call this item template. And I'm going to include the year. You can include the month and year. I think it's good to include when this was created because there might be older templates available. Now, recommendation is that every library has a designated folder just for Evergreen. So I'm going to save this template to my Evergreen folder. And then I'm going to tell my colleagues that, okay, it's the item template 2026. Everything's been updated. Next time you log in, make sure you import those templates. So my coworker, they're wonderful. They dedicated time. They updated all of the templates in the library, and they told me they're ready to import. So I'm going to go into the holdings template editor. And again, I get there through local admin. And all I'm going to do is click on that import button. And it's going to open up my share drive and allow me to choose that file. If it, happens before the day is over. Okay, but we're just going to move on because I don't want to. Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, two questions. Simple question, what's the difference again between import and export? And then the other question is, which fields must be entered, must be entered, and which fields we can let go?
Okay, so the difference between import and export is I am sending these templates into my shared folder. I'm making these available. I'm saving them to my share drive. Import means so export is download. Oh, can you not hear me? One second. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I don't.
This is unarmed, but
I
we
can hear you fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Export, you're downloading to your computer. Import, you're uploading and saving it to your workstation. The most important fields to fill out in your template is going to be shelving location, circulation modifier, whether or not it can circulate, whether or not it's holdable, whether or not it's OPAC visible, and making sure your status is set to available soon. All of that are in the help guides. Those will be shared with you after the fact. Okay. All right. So we talked about linking, we talked about templates. I want to talk about item maintenance now. So from time to time, we're going to have to update our items. We're going to have to either edit those shelving location statuses, or sometimes we're just going to have to delete those items. Now, sometimes those items will just physically land on our desk. You know, something came in the book drop, it was damaged, it needs to be updated. But sometimes we actually need to run reports to locate those items. So I'm going to go into my administration dropdown and go into my reports link, or I can do that from my home screen. I'm going to, if I'm starting new, I'm starting fresh, I'm going to start off in my shared folders, in my shared reports templates, and I'm going to go into the evergreen.reports folder. Now, Lindsay has done the most of the work here. Let's give Lindsay her flowers. We've created these templates for all sorts of different evergreen categories so that typically you guys don't have to create the templates yourselves. You can just clone these or copy these to your folder and make adjustments as needed. For tech services, you're going to primarily go into the collection subfolder here. Open up that little tree and go into item maintenance. Now, your default view is going to be 10 rows. I'm going to switch that to 25 because there's 15. Yes, there's 15 templates here that are related to item maintenance. We're not going to be looking at all of these today, but we are going to be looking at pre-cats and item statuses. So one of the major things that as tech services department needs to be aware of and do fairly regularly, whether it's bi-monthly or quarterly, is clearing out pre-cat records in the catalog. Pre-cat records happen at checkout when the barcode isn't recognized. And so it's going to ask the circulation staff to create these on the fly or pre-catalog records. So we can check the item out to the patron. When it comes back to us, we can then update the barcode. But those pre-catalog records still exist in the catalog. And I think it's easier if I show you what that looks like too. So I can locate those by running a report, but sometimes you're going to stumble across them in the wild. And so yes, to stick to my numeric search. And they're easily identifiable because the title control number is a -1, and then there's just no other information in the record summary. And then if you look at the item table, it's all pre-cat, 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 pre-cat. The barcodes are also going to be pretty random too, just from experience looking at that. So when I want to make sure, when it's time for me to run this report to clear this out, maybe it's a quiet day and, you know, I'm just looking at the clock, I need something to do. I'm going to run a report and I'm going to look for the pre-cat report, and that is number 14 for me. I select it. I go up to my actions menu and I'm cloning it. I'm going to choose my folder to save this to. So I'm saving it to my item maintenance. And then when it's time to run it, then I go into my folder. The one I just saved. I select, I open my actions menu, and now I'm going to do new report from this template. So this is going to ask me to choose which library. So I'm running it for my library. So for me, that would be WLS. For you guys in this dropdown, so I said I would use New Rochelle for these examples. New Rochelle, and all of you guys, you have to open up the tree. If you select the first option here, you're going to get an empty report. These are just containers. You have to open them up and then you have to select your location there. That's one of the, when I see help desk tickets about people getting empty reports when they swore it worked before, typically it's because they're not remembering to open up those trees. I'm going to click next, and then I'm going to save it to a report folder and an output folder. Before I click save and schedule report, I want to bring your attention to these options right here, recurrence. Sometimes it's good to set up and schedule reports to run on their own. So for certain things like managing pre-cat records or lost items, or items that are missing the price field, or items that have been linked without stat cats, I'm going to set up this as a reoccurring report. So Evergreen just knows to run this. The recurrence interval, I can set it for days, hours, weeks, months, or years. So if I want this to be once a month, I want this to run every month. I'm going to then put in my email. And I can put in multiple email addresses too. So when this report is finished, I get a link sent to my inbox. Save and schedule report. When the report is finished, I'm going to look for it in my output folder. This is a speed run. If you want more time with reports, you got to set up a training for me with me to really focus some time on that. So when I am ready, when my report is finished, I'm going to open it up in a spreadsheet. So this is the information I can see here. Circulating, owning library, when this was created, the barcode, the pre-cat dummy title, author, ISBN, circ mod, copy status, and so on. Really, the only thing that's important to me is the barcode because I'm deleting these, right? I'm clearing these out of the catalog. And you can see how random these get. And it's usually because by the time staff have to create these, they're totally exasperated. And so they're just putting in whatever in that field. Recommended, if you can see the barcode yourself, just type that in, but it is what it is. I'm copying the barcodes from my spreadsheet and I'm putting them into a little text file. I'm going to save this because I can upload all of these barcodes in one go through Evergreen this way. But it's taking a minute and maybe I'm not feeling very patient today. Okay. So after I get that taken care of, now I want to go into item status. And if that had worked correctly, this choose file link, this is what would allow me to upload all of those barcodes. And now it's working. Now it's working. Yay. Documents. Evergreen. Pre-cats. Okay. Boop, boop. Well, gosh darn. I think everything's frozen for me right now. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Just one moment, excuse. And let me just see what's going on my end. Okay. All right. Documents. Okay. Now, the bigger the file, the longer it's going to take to load. but now they're all in item status. I'm just going to select these guys. I'm going to open my actions menu and I'm going to delete them. Now, if you're new to tech services, you may not have the permissions in your workstation to delete items. So if this is something that you're taking on, you may need to have those permissions added to your profile, your Evergreen username. So if that's the case, have your supervisor submit a help desk ticket and just say, have them say, these are the people that are going to be doing tech services. Please update their permissions. We'll get that taken care of, and then you'll be able to delete and edit items. Editing items is really just for our library's items. We have specific permissions in place, so we can't edit another library's items. Also, Evergreen is going to prevent you from editing items that have specific statuses. So anytime an item has a status of checked out, in transit, or lost, Evergreen will not let you update that item. However, any other time you can. So I'm going to pull up my dummy barcodes and I'm going to go into my item bucket. An item bucket is very similar to item status, but an item bucket acts as a container, whereas item status, if I were to, I can't go back to item status. So I can't see all of those items I just deleted. Whereas in a bucket, it's going to keep those items in there for as long as I need them to be. So these are some dummy barcodes that I've created. And based on the columns I have here, I can see these have an available status, but these are missing circ modifiers. And so I should probably add some circ modifiers to these items, right? Right. So I'm going to select those items, but notice that some of these items don't belong to me. So let me sort them and just choose what belongs to me. And my items do have those circulation modifiers. But I'm going to open up my actions menu and I'm going to edit those selected items because I can edit multiple items at once. All of my call numbers and barcodes are going to be listed at the top. And then in each field, I'm going to see all of the information for each item that I have selected. So specifically for shelving location, you can see that 2 copies have fantasy, 1 has fiction. All of them belong to WLS. All of them have different prices. But let's say I am updating these items to go into, let's say these items are going into storage. So I'm clicking on my shelving location field to open up that drop down. And I'm just typing in ST to bring that up quicker. And then I'm saying storage not available, apply. I don't want these to circulate anymore. So I'm switching that to no, and I'm clicking apply. These shouldn't be holdable anymore. So I'm applying that. And where's OPAC visible? I don't want these to appear in the OPAC. I don't want to confuse my patron. So I'm applying that as well. Now I'm going to apply all, save, and exit. Brings me back to my item bucket, and maybe I just need to do a little refresh just to see my items there. And there my changes went through. We can update statuses too from item status specifically. And where's my barcode? If I click on the barcode, it's going to take me right into the detailed view of item status. When we access item status from any of the drop downs or the home screen, it's going to be in that listed format. And we can always get back there by clicking on that button in the top right corner. The columns that I choose are going to determine how useful item status is for me. And so as a reminder, whenever we customize our columns, we do that through the gear icon and the manage columns option. And there's a lot of columns to choose from. So for my list view, the way I set it up is I just want to be able to look at this at a glance and get an idea of where this item is, because my detailed view is going to give me way more information about it. So from detailed view, I can see the barcode, the price, ISBN, when this item was created, when it was activated, and when the status changed. Status change is going to update really anytime this item gets scanned. So it's not specifically if I'm updating the status or if the status goes from available to checked out. It can be from the status change can be waiting for capture, hold captured, on the hold shelf, checked out, checked in, reshelved, in transit. It can be any of those things. I see who owns it, the shelving location, all of the fine rules. I can also see just the circulation lifespan of it. Hold in transit, was it captured for a hold? Where's it going? The cataloging information, though, is going to show me the mark record. You will not be able to edit this mark record, but at least you can see what's in this mark record. But specifically because we're in tech services, I'm really more concerned about the actions menu and what I can do to this item. So as you saw, we deleted this item. We can check items in this way too. If check-in screen isn't working, we can renew items. But if I scroll down, mark item as damaged, discard weed, or missing are quick ways to update the status. Now, marking the item as damaged is going to only allow me to do that if the item belongs to me. Typically at check-in, it's also going to give you the option to charge the patron, but you'll notice that there is no price in this field, so it's not going to charge the patron anything for it. Mark the item as discard weed is really for items that we are going to be pulling off the shelves and deleting, but we can't get to deleting it just yet. So it's kind of a temporary status. Missing is the item cannot be found anywhere. So there's often questions about what's the difference between marking an item as missing versus what's marking the item as lost. Missing refers to where you're trying to find the item on the shelves or in the library. We cannot find it. We mark an item lost, or an item gets marked lost after it's been checked out to a patron. So Evergreen will automatically mark an item lost 30 days after the due date comes and goes, or a patron is brave enough to tell us that they can't find the item themselves. Missing items, like I said, missing items are theoretically in the building somewhere and we just cannot find it. When we mark an item as missing, if the item does not get found, checked in, scanned, or updated to available, Evergreen automatically deletes this from the catalog after 1 year. So items that have a missing status of 1 year will get deleted. Now, sometimes the item pops up. Sometimes we find it, sometimes it fell somewhere, sometimes it was, shelved in somewhere crazy. We scan the item. This barcode has been deleted. We just have to replace the barcode, and we can do that in the edit section here or in the circulation dropdown. And all we do is we scan the original barcode and then we just scan the new barcode. We don't lose any of the circulation statistics for this item when we replace the barcode. I know that's always a really big question. Do we lose those statistics? No, we don't. Okay. Let's just take a quick look. We are at 214. Edit items. Let's see, let's see. I think we're doing good. We've covered most of everything. Okay. All right. Earlier I talked about when we were linking items, I mentioned adding parts and that I would show you an example of that, and then I never showed you the example of that. So just really quickly, I'm going to show you that example, and then I'm going to open it up to questions.
Allison, I got a question. Oh,
Sure.
sorry. So if the item was marked missing and after a year it was found, after Evergreen deleted it, that's how what happens with that? It just pops up as reroute to cataloging then?
No. So it will, if you find an item and it had been deleted, it will just say barcode not found. It won't recognize the barcode at all. So that's going to tell you, well, this item needs to get edited in some way. So yeah, send it to tech services, tell them the barcode needs to get replaced. When you when precats are created and that book gets checked in, that's going to say reroute to cataloging. That's when you're going to see that alert. And so that's when tech services has to check and see what's going on with the physical barcode, because for a precat to pop up, 9 times out of 10, it's because the scanner just didn't pick up the full barcode. But sometimes there actually is damage to the barcode. And so the barcode does need to physically get replaced. So you're going to test that. If it needs to get replaced, then you're going to replace the barcode. So for both of those scenarios, you'll replace the barcode, but the messaging is going to be different with how you're going to figure that out.
Got it.
And that's because that's an ISBN. Doo-doo-doo. Okay. All right. So just going back to when we're adding parts to items, when we're linking them, this is how that's going to display. So volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4. Again, this is only for items that have multiple parts to them. This is not to indicate series. So like Fellowship of the Rings, The Two Towers, Return of the King. You're not using parts for that. Unless they're linked, all 3 of those items are linked to the same title record, but typically that's not the case. And any questions you have about, should I be adding something to this? Should I be doing this? Should I be linking it this way? Is a perfect excuse to email the help desk, where Lindsay or I will help answer any questions you have. So I'm just taking a look at the chat. Oh, Ursula said they had that experience yesterday. Yeah, it's always fun when strange things pop up.
So how do the parts operate for when a patron puts something on hold? So like if someone wants to put a book on hold, but it's like we have it in 2 parts, oftentimes it seems like it only will capture one of those 2 if it registers them as separate items. If they're listed as parts, will it recognize it as one item and capture both parts for the whole?
So you have to indicate that the patron wants both parts. That's where it can get tricky. So because if it's really so I can visually say or see if I'm placing the hold for the patron. The patron says, I've already gone through volume 1. I need 2 and 3 right now. I can place a hold on those items, specifically those 2 parts.
But sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
Because it happens most often when patrons put the holds themselves, like in the catalog. And typically we'll have to, contact them to ask if they actually want all the things. It happens most often with like DVD series, things like that.
Yeah, parts can get tricky, and because there's a lot of confusion with how libraries use that feature when they link the items. So with DVDs, like if you have linked your DVDs, like let's say for Game of Thrones, season 1 is its own title record, but you've separated the discs. So disc 1 and 2 are part 1, and then 3 and 4 are part 2, because you circulate those separately. You're not circulating it as the box set. That can get confusing. If everything is working right, and that we know that sometimes Evergreen gets funny, you should be able to place holds on the specific parts, but it's on the patrons too to be aware, and if they're placing the holds themselves, to be able to figure that out. So sometimes weird stuff does happen with the parts, and I'm stressing that really because we had our tech services interest group meeting this past Tuesday, and that was a conversation that we were having about it.
In what way do the parts operate differently from just individually cataloged items?
So it's really meant for records that have those multiple parts to them. So because if you're placing a title hold, because patrons can only really place title holds. So if there's multiple volumes linked to one title, but they don't need to have all of those and all of these were available. Let's say this was holdable. Evergreen is typically going to just look for the next available whatever that's linked to that title to fill. So the parts is really so the patron or the staff can specify which one of those comes through for the patron.
Okay, but
if everything works, if everything's working correctly, that's how it's supposed to work.
But it's not really different than having like multiple copies and like Ursula just said, like, and then just putting V.1, V.2, V.3 in the call number.
Yeah, some people do, but the reason why that part is there is because that call number, that V1, V2 call number, isn't really searchable that way. So it's perfectly fine to put it in the call number because it's visually very easy for us to understand that. But when we're actually searching the catalog, it's not helpful in that way. So Ursula, thank you for including that. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I see something just popped up. So much to know. I know it is a lot to know, especially if you're not doing it every day. But like all things in Evergreen, you got to get your hands messy. You got to actually jump in and start doing it. Okay. Oh, thank you, Ursula. Now, I mentioned that there is a tech services interest group. We meet every other month on the second Tuesday at 9:30. It's virtual. I know some of you have shown up to it. It is open to anybody that does tech services or just wants to be a part of the conversation. It's a time for staff to bring up questions, comments, if they want more clarity on a specific workflow. Those are on the WLS LibCal calendar. You can sign up for those if you want to get the emails about that. Typically, those emails are just reminders of when those meetings are, or, hey, how do you guys feel about this one specific thing if we were to update it or tweak it? You can submit a help desk ticket, or you can reach out to me directly and we can add you to that mailing list. It's not an official committee, it's just an interest group. So there's no real responsibility on your part on anything if that's of interest to you. As I've mentioned throughout this training, I'm sharing the recording with you as well as a PowerPoint slide deck and direct links to these help guide pages so that you guys can bookmark them and have them handy. I'm always available, or I'm as available as I can be to help or answer any questions. Or if you want one-on-one refresher training, that's always on the table. I'm happy to come to you in person or meet with you virtually. we'll figure out a way to get you comfortable and confident with tech services. So we are at 2:25. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. Just pull up that chat. And before I let you go, I know that it's a lot of information, as some of you said, but how are we feeling? Are we overwhelmed? Are we feeling a little bit more confident? Are we feeling excited? Are we scared? Do we want to quit? Oh, Marta, I think you're muted.
Here I am.
There you are.
I think it was all great information, and like anything else, I think once you start doing it, like you said, and doing it a little more frequently, you will get it.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you're not tech services, some because some libraries have designated tech services departments. Some don't. Sometimes it's we're all wearing the hats and we're all trading off and we're all taking turns. And so it really all depends on your exposure to it. So that's why I'm like, I'm here for you if you need help or have questions, because not everyone does it every day. So um yeah, don't I know it's overwhelming, but you're not being thrown to the wolves with this or fed to the sharks. Yeah.
Can I ask, first of all, thank you very much. I think this has been helpful for me too. Yes, overwhelmed. I'm a newbie, but also I think really helpful. And the more I do it, the more I'll learn. But is it possible to revisit that question from before when our volume kind of went
Oh, yes, about the templates, the export import, and then which ones you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know with
absolutely.
the ad holdings, there's the red asterisks for which are required, but in the edit template,
But actually
no?
setting up the template itself. Yeah. No, that was a great question. So yes, I can happily go back to that.
Thank you.
So yeah, there are no asterisks when you're setting up your template. So typically I am going to focus on the circulation and holdability aspect of what this template is going to be for. So first of all, what am I creating a template for? Well, if it's just a book, then do I want this to circulate? What's the shelving location? The shelving location is actually, I'm going to come back to that because the shelving location is going to depend on what item comes across my desk. So I'm setting whether or not this is going to be an item that can circulate. Will this be OPAC visible? Meaning, do I want the patrons to know about this? Do I want patrons to be able to place holds on it? And then the status, I'm just going to set that to available soon. And then is this reference, yes or no? Those are probably the ones that I'm going to care about the most when I'm setting up the templates, because everything else is going to change depending on the book. That's if I'm creating like a broader template. So like I said, some libraries really get specific for the templates they create. They do it based on genre, audience, whatever. But if this is just a regular book, this is a perfect starting ground. So circulate, OPAC visible, holdable, reference. Because you can set the shelving location and the circulation modifier when you get it, when it's actually time to link it. Now, the difference between import and export is after all of your templates are created, the export is you downloading that file to your share drive. So you're sending it from your workstation to your library share drive. And then someone else importing is them uploading that template file. Does that help clarify? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Okay. All right.
Sorry, I keep bothering you.
Oh, that's
I
it.
had one more question. So when you select, like there's the selection for a Dewey, generic or Library of Congress, like in, I think that was on
When
the,
you're linking, when you're actually linking, yeah.
yeah. Um, so at Ardsley for a long time, we, I think on all of our items just left the Dewey setting in, but that's, I think like that's not correct, right? Like it should be for fiction items that aren't cataloged actually as like a Dewey like numeric call number, it should be under generic.
Yeah, so you absolutely can set this to
Mhm.
whatever it needs to be. Um, and again, it depends on what you are typically linking. So that's why it's not going to be like, even though I have my preferences set to Dewey, I can still switch it back and forth and I can change it to whatever it needs to be.
Mhm.
So the preference is really just you don't have to. I think by default, if you were to come in here, it's going to be set to Dewey because it's alphabetically sorted. So that's going to be what you see the first time you go in there. But if you are typically finding you're doing generic, you can set that to generic. That's totally fine. So that's like a just a default display thing you're seeing there.
Thank you.
Nope, yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, and Stephanie says helpful to see how things are set up process prior to circulation and what issues I've run into where yeah, it is it's kind of yeah, that missing piece of why are things working and operating the way they are. And it's tech, yeah. And then we fix those problems. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'm going to let you get back to your day. I hope that the rest of the day goes by quickly and easily and smoothly. And if you don't have to work this weekend, enjoy. And if you do, I hope it's really nice and easy and it goes by quickly. So I will be sending a follow-up either later today or maybe a Monday, depending on how long it takes for the recording to upload. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me. And
Thank you.